Je sais pas comment où elle va arriver, je sais pas qu'est-ce qu'elle fait. Je sais pas ce qu'elle fait, je sais pas ce qu'elle va faire. Anna.
Am I on air? Can you hear me? No? Do you hear me? Okay. So I'm WEINBERGER, and this is my contribution to this TV show, Studio Performing, where I basically introduce you to this space, which actually exists in real time and real life. It's located in Marseille, pretty much next to the train station. Maybe you want to come with me and look outside, have a look at the train tracks. It's very important for me that you know where we are. Right now there is no train driving by, but this is the train track. On our right side is the train station. Do you see the courtyard as well? Can you see that? So this institution is basically placed also in a public space for whatever, like youth culture happening, people playing basketball and so on. And today actually there is the official opening of an art fair called THOREL, which I haven't visited yet, but it's basically next door. And the whole area here is like a, I would say, a campus, as we know it, as we find in the US, where you have art schools and so on next to each other. Just the difference is that here it's a bookstore, a coffee, an art institution, a theater, studios, an art fair currently, and so on. As you see in the space, there are different people. People actually walking around here are either people involved in the production, the technical production, or the preparation for the whole project itself, working for the institution Triangle or Benjamin Valenza. Then there are many artists, there are art historians, there are some visitors that I don't know. I actually have to go and open the door so people can come inside if they want. Does it work with the cable to introduce you to our foyer where people can see the screens? So actually we're going from inside out. We're coming from the TV studio into the foyer where people are being welcomed and where you can see the live actions of what you actually see right now online. I see myself in different angles. And when you actually go further out, which is not possible right now, through the cable I think is not too long, you will end up on a big terrace, which we will present you with a different camera. On our way to the terrace, we maybe go by to the backstage area. Like proper TV backstage area where people are preparing themselves. Maybe we switch now to the other camera, so you will see basically the camera that is standing here, the view of the terrace. Now we switch back to the other camera and we will introduce you to the green screen area, which is pretty much fun, which I guess will be activated in an hour or so. Of course, every TV show has a green screen. Very important. Do we switch now to this other camera? So I will show you how this works. Maybe with the background from outside. Do you see me? Outside on the terrace or on the green screen?
Outside.
Ah. Okay, thank you very much. We tested that. Then we have another setup for the next performance, basically. It looks very promising. I have no idea, I must say, even though I've been spending some days in this space, what's gonna happen in a few minutes. Here we have another interesting camera, which I would like to show you, which should be then activated. It looks very funny. And now maybe we see, maybe someone wants to drink something. This is something you do in a studio. Actually, also one of the reasons why I'm showing you this studio situation is because for the first time I'm actually invited to a proper studio where I actually can work in a studio, which I usually don't. And I'm often being asked why or how I work. And actually this right now is how I usually react on a studio situation. So I just find myself in a space looking around, wandering around, but I'm not able to produce much in a space just for production. And that's why usually what I do is I drink something, I eat something, I call someone, I hang out with friends. And actually we sneaked out some wine before. Does it work with the cable? Ah, yeah. Do you want to have some wine? Someone? You want some wine? Because we got some wine. Ah, but we don't have an opener, or do we? Do you want to have rosé or white wine? We just have plastic, I think. Do we have a bottle opener? Oops. In your bag? And also this here is our kitchen in the studio where we eat lunch together or at evenings drink, hang out, where people are sewing on a sewing machine or working on a computer. Or as you see right now, people are just waiting or thinking. Did you find the bottle opener? Ah. Do you guys also want some rosé? Ah. Okay. Is there a knife on here? You don't have to portray me opening the bottle. I'm in France and I'm afraid someone will criticize me. I don't know if there is a knife on here. Is there? Ah, there is. Oh, there's another one. Are you okay with plastic? I'm just going to put it here for everyone. This is what you do in a studio, right? When you work, you drink, you eat. Yes. Does someone know the time? What time it is? Do you have a watch? Okay. Yes, yes, please. I have more. More? Shall I open another bottle? Opala. Also, maybe while we're at it, we should do some commercial. Until when does it run? Labor, Zero Labor? What's the ending date? What's the ending date of Labor, Zero Labor? No, the final date of the whole project? November, you know the date? In November it ends. Just wanted to tell everybody that's watching that they can watch until November. Or December. Until December. you want some more? Huh?
Little bit. Too much.
Maybe we also could bring some rosé to the other guys behind the set, basically. I'm gonna also introduce you to them. Is Celine actually around, or is she working somewhere in the office? Is she watching, actually? I'm just gonna assume that everybody in the back will also want to rosé. If you come with me, I'm gonna introduce you to Leni, Fred, and Benjamin. These are actually the people working. And others that are
Thank you.
Ouais, la cagée là-dessus.
here. For the people that don't know Benjamin, this is Leni. This is Fred, right? Fred? Is Celine here, Benjamin? Celine?
No.
Ah. Is she in front of the computer, maybe?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So we say hi to Celine. Maybe I can wave to her. Hi, Celine. It's what you do when you're on TV. You say hi to people. I'm also going to say hi to the others. I'm on air. I'm an artist in the studio.
That's not a blunt.
In residence.
That's neighbor.
Do you want some rosé?
No, thank you.
You want some rosé? I can't ask you. Maybe later I will. So how much time is left? Amelie, how much time is left for me? How much time is left? 12 minutes. Okay. So then maybe I will prepare a little surprise. By the way, something very interesting was produced. This. You can light fire. It's a real TV show. It's being branded. Where is this? Oh. This is actually a surprise for someone really special. We have even a candle here. And I hope he's watching. Where's the lighter? So what I wanted to say before, actually when you're on TV, you need to say hello to everybody you love, your mom. I give a kiss to my daughter, Annalou, that I miss. I miss my boyfriend, Nico. I miss my brother, David. And I want to say thank you to all my friends that have been very supportive, such as, and my gallerists, Jean-Claude, vraiment good, Robbie and Alex in LA. And I have to say hello to Judith, my friend, Gina, Baharak, and many, many more. They actually know who they are. But someone who has his birthday today is my father, and he's currently in the hospital, and I hope he's watching. And it's today his 66th birthday. And I hope people will sing for me for him. I'm gonna ask who's willing to sing. Can you sing with me Happy Birthday? It's for my father. His name is Bruce. Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Maybe I bring this and then we can cut the cake. It's actually a real birthday cake. It's a real. Maybe we take this. Maybe it's too soft. This. Do you know if there are little plates or something somewhere? Plastic plates? Ah, in here. For everybody that's here, basically. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks. The bit funny or sad thing is he's a diabetic, so he cannot eat cake. But anyway, I'm sure he will enjoy that we eat cake for him. I don't know. Flavor of love. Flavor of love, yes. How many people are we? So maybe everyone gets one of these. I make small ones. He's watching, he's in the hospital. I hope he's watching. He's currently living in the hospital, so this is more interesting than the daily deal. Oh, this is a bit funny.
What is writing?
I think it's nothing, just the person that made it kind of made like a signature or something.
Something.
Maybe I start
Yes, do you want
handing it out. So, there you go.
faire un service? Ici. Qui veut la petite part? Oui, j'adore.
It looks very creamy.
Very tasty.
Just please take, guys. Here you go.
Les demoiselles en premier. Tu veux un gâteau? Ou pas?
Joe?
Very small.
This one is...
Is someone else very very small? Then we can.
Tu veux du gâteau? You want some cake? D'accord, partagez. Sans limiter.
So I'm dividing this.
Oh, a small one.
A small one for Amelie.
A small one.
By the way, in the back here is also an office, like a back office. We shouldn't miss anything of the studio. This is a big piece, actually. Do you want this, no?
Visage, tu veux une piste?
C'est là, on fait voir ça pour la fleur.
Oh, j'attends trop la fleur. C'est de la pâte d'amande. Oh là là.
This is also a big piece.
Ouais, peut-être qu'il faut... Ouais, tu veux une piste? Oui, tiens, vas-y. Vas-y, donne-la, Violaine.
Is it actually tasty? Is it very sweet? Is it tasty or
No, quite
sweet?
Yes. That's too sweet.
Ah, okay. You want? Do you want?
Thank you.
Monsieur Thorel, vous voulez du gâteau? Ça va.
Does he want?
No. Do you want some cake? No. D'accord. Ça va pas postpone.
Basically, this is how I spend my time in the studio. This is something I do. I actually like to bake myself, but I didn't have the chance here. Who wants a rose?
I know.
Who wants a rose?
No? We can share it if you want.
No, you can have it.
Oh, yes.
No, you have.
Yes, we have. You have to share the roses. Where is the baby?
The baby is in the back here, but it cannot eat sugar yet. I don't allow it to eat sugar yet.
Flower.
Do you want cake?
On va manger ça tout seul.
Oui, on va ouvrir.
Ok. Tu veux une pétale de rose? Ah, vas-y, partage. Oh, c'est beau. We share the flower. Wow.
Ah merde.
On va prendre la grosse. Yes, sure.
We have some.
Ça marche pas trop comme ça.
I think it's, how do you say, the almond thing? Marzipan? Marzipan?
Pâte d'amande.
Marzipan. Pâte d'almond, yeah. Who wants cake? Just take cake, please. Laura, soll ich dir gerade oh, hey, schön. Gut. Valenza, do you want some cake? Or Lenny? Or Fred, maybe you need some sugar.
Oh, he's on the back. Il est dans les... Demandez à Valenza. Je vais leur apporter.
The three guys, they work so much.
Demandez à la caméra. Tu devais avec ça?
Je vais retourner là-dedans.
And you? Do you have a...
I will take one of these. Whoopa!
Ouchie!
Bon? Ouais.
This is water.
Ah. But there's more wine in the fridge if we need.
So, this one is for Valenza?
No, I think she brought already. I don't remember her name. Maybe they don't want. They don't want? Ah, okay. How many minutes are left? I don't know.
Sarah wants.
Amelie? Is it continuing now? Or what? How many minutes are left?
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. So, for now, I want to say goodbye to everybody. And I hope that you will watch many of these contributions the next few weeks and months even, because it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen. And take care. See you soon.
Soon I shall give up the first and second-hand furniture of memory. I shall live in a hollow house, listening to the glint of the sun. The end of walls, the end of ropes, the opening of doors. The surfaces of life adhere to me. A field, I'm contained in the orange and lemon trees in my garden. The sun. Glove body, ancient light, soft ingenue.
Aren't we so lucky? Aren't we so lucky? Aren't we so lucky?
Aren't we so lucky to live in this city where everyone likes to stay inside all day and no one asks whether or not the weather will be bad today or tomorrow? Wouldn't it be nice if the earth became covered in ice and the street blue lights will only stay to say, isn't it nice to stay inside all day and think about that day out on the river, Violet? I said, baby, everybody knows you've got new clothes, a mock blank cock dressed up in ribbons and bows. But if you really want me, you'll see my celestial violets undressing. Baby, I'll ride all night long down the dusty lane of your spit back through the twisted arch of my every lover's collarbone. I'll take you to the borderlands with only my bones showing on the outside.
Aren't we so lucky?
I am too big for sunset, but I am too small for dusk.
Rain stops on my face, bees, passing, pick up salt and honey from my skin. I have a constant coming and going of breath. Soon my life will run out like the fluids of my body. I shall be among the dead, great and small, a composite heart of a man, woman and beast, free of the stone dust and the honey. Meantime, serial consensus, eternal posturing, anaphora, the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
Eyewitnesses are present at most of the murders. They saw a stabbing instrument attacking from above, but they could not identify it.
So this is the beginning of Melanie Gilligan's project, Popular Unrest, that was developed as like a sci-fi drama in 5 episodes, conceived to be broadcast online, which is what we're watching from the Popular Unrest website. So Melanie wrote in this video, really like thinking of this format of the TV series, mentioning herself as like a inspiration, so as to say, like conventional form of procedural TV crime shows like CSI and Bones, and like she's really going in this direction of a narrative like that you can follow and hang to.
Okay, so what's interesting, I think, about this work is that it is a multi-part video. It has episodes, and it's quite heavily serialized. So what I mean by that is that there's a strong emphasis on the development of a storyline over the episodes. So there's a progression towards a finale. Mm-hmm. And this means that at the end of each episode, if it's constructed in a serialized way, one immediately wants to watch the next episode. So in addition to working with the specific stylistic features of TV shows like CSI and Bones, she's also working with this larger idea of the serialized drama. And it's not unusual, I think, for artists to produce multi-episode works or to produce works in a series that might have a recurring character or a common situation, but it's more unusual for artists to really serialize the work. So to be able to create this intense engagement with the storyline and with the characters, and to hold attention and to create a certain expectation and a desire to follow the story through to its end.
And you think that it's like something that has been developing amongst like artists, working with video and film recently, in parallel with how these notions of like serial and episodic form have developed in TV production as such?
Yeah, I think there are parallels, but also differences between the context of commercial television drama on the one hand and artists' video production, which is, there are some connections that we could discuss around economies and particularly distribution platforms, delivery platforms, but there's also, I think, there's a range of differences that need to be opened out between just simply working in a series form with multiple parts on the one hand, and then trying to actually hook in an audience and hold their attention. So one of the things that I've been interested in looking at the televisual in art practice over the last maybe 15 years, maybe a little bit shorter time frame, is there's a shift from artists wanting to, I think, reform television, to correct it or improve it or necessarily critique it. A shift from this idea of reforming to the idea maybe of television as a sort of resource from which you can draw things. And one of the things you can draw on is these ideas of the genre drama, the police procedural, or the soap opera set in a domestic scenario. These are sort of generic forms. And obviously there's ideas of character and sort of certain ways of plotting stories. But I think serialization in its currently very intensified form is something that is a sort of, it's become a resource for artists more recently. But there are challenges to how artists might really work with serialization. And I think it's probably maybe useful to explain the difference between simply an episode and a series. So we know that Melanie Gilligan in this work and in some previous works, such as, for example, the Crisis in the Credit System, and also the more recent work, The Common Sense, that she has made multiple episodes, and the completed work involves maybe 5 episodes. But if we look at television generally, most types of TV, drama, and also comedy as well, there is the idea of structuring the story into an episode and having a kind of some sort of mini resolution in the episode. And then there are storylines that might be plotted over a full season, or perhaps even plotted over multiple seasons. And if we look at the history of particularly serialization as it's become more intense in US TV drama, one of the things that I suppose it would be important to think about is subscription-based TV services like HBO, which are not advertising driven, but are more driven by subscription payments. So there's an imperative to hook the audience and hold their attention, but there's also the possibility of developing a kind of storytelling that is complex and allows for really an expansive emotional range in the characters, and also allows for threads that might they might be quite subtle, and they might be followed by very committed fans over multiple seasons. And
which is in contrast to what would be like the episodic format as something which like stays in this looking for resolution inside of the format of one episode, without the sophistication of different narrative arcs that would bind together the different episodes and make this kind of like excitement and expectation to follow and continue looking at the what's next and how the project is developing.
Yeah, so in a sort of classic TV from the sort of 70s, it was important to syndicate the episodes, so they had to have reruns, and selling on the episodes for syndication was a big part of the economy of making television, and you had to be able to follow the episodes out of order, so it was important to be able to dip in and out. Similarly with soap opera, traditionally soap opera has had multiple overlapping story arcs, so even if one storyline was ending, another had already begun, so actually the story world was continuing, and you could come in and out. You might be a very dedicated follower and be watching every storyline intently, but it might not be necessary to feel that you were progressing towards a very dramatic season finale or series finale. And there's different moments in the history of particularly US television. The X-Files is this quite famous example where the fans were very dedicated, but also DVD box sets made it possible to really extend certain aspects and intensify certain aspects. So the X-Files ran for a very long time, and the distribution systems changed during that time. So the way in which you could actually draw in the viewers, it allowed for new possibilities. And even the run of X-Files overlaps with the use of blogs and the beginnings of social media. So there were certain kinds of promotion that could happen around releasing the box sets. So there's a close connection between serial form and economies of distribution. And I think that what's interesting about Melanie's work is that she has made certainly Popular Unrest and also Crisis in the Credit System. They're devised to be viewed not just in a gallery but also online.
Yeah. And there's this maybe dimension which is related also to how artists then are like more interested in developing this kind of complex narrative form, rather than putting together like maybe also some project that was more directly related to the cinematic, or like to a form that would have like this like heavy gallery presence. And here we have all those kind of like scattered or like more complex also way of developing narrative characters that not only rely on types but also on like this kind of like pretty specific writing that sometimes seems to really be challenging the language of let's say mass media, like as like in its narrative forms, and sometimes also has more of this kind of like speculative dimension. In Melanie's work, there's this dimension of like as kind of speculative science fiction, where indeed like these storylines like are really closely related to her preoccupation with like economy, not only in the art world but as like in how it's late capitalism has developed through question of affects. And this is also something that is really important in the way she's using these forms to articulate also complexity and not just make a point in terms of.
Yeah, and she's very much working with affect as part of her content. That's what she's trying to explore, this intersection between the body, affect and technology and algorithmic processing of data that relates to affect. And I think that it's interesting that serialized drama actually allows for a certain deepening of focus on relationships and also character motivation, and that's been there for a long time. But it's interesting to see how much the exploration of emotion and affect has become important to artists. And one of the other artists that we were talking about in exploring these ideas is Shanna Moulton. And Shanna's made multi-part works, though that's not quite the right term to use. She has a recurring character, Cynthia, who appears in a number of different works, which are all collectively framed through reference to this idea of whispering pines. And the works are numbered. So Whispering Pines 6, 7, 8, and so on. And Whispering Pines is a situation or a place. In at least one of the videos, there's a suggestion that it's a retirement home, or it's a place where people have gone, a community where you can withdraw from the sort of rigors of everyday life. And Cynthia as a character she's an alter ego in a way for Shanna Moulton, because there's a performance aspect to Shanna's practice, and there's also an object-making dimension. So there are many aspects to this work that are not just contained by the idea of a television drama. It spills over beyond that. But I think hers it's a good example of work that has certain structures, such as the recurring character, the naming of the work as though it is a series, but it's not serialized in the same way as Melanie Gilligan's. So when we come to the end of one of these Whispering Pines stories, we don't immediately feel, I have to know what happens next. She's not really playing with this idea of expectation and tension in quite the same way. In fact, most of the episodes have a strong episodic resolution. So she will go on a journey within the episode. She might literally go to another place or another dimension, but she will usually, something will be learned, or there will be some kind of arc that is resolved within the episode. So, but at the same time, having a recurring character and a recurring scenario allows for the work to be recognizable in a particular way, and probably also works well in terms of expanding its audience. It gives the work a kind of maybe visibility, and she can then draw out elements of it in different situations. So I think there are many reasons why an artist might have a recurring character, but it's also interesting that affect and the territory of what's happening inside her body and her experience and relationship to the sensations that she's encountering and her inner mental state. They're all things that she explores quite consistently in all of the videos featuring Cynthia.
What I think is also interesting in this kind of like episodic form that is like a character center is that it's at the same time like clearly linked to like this televisual, to the extent that it may be also connected to short TV forms that would be this kind of like very short TV series that would be not like the more like high production value in terms of TV shows, but that kind of link to also a tradition of, let's say, slapstick or some like more like from the early cinema, like I would say, like just to put it simply, like Chaplin's recurring character, to the extent that also like Shanna Moulton uses a lot of music, but her character is always silent and has to interact with this like weird world of objects that is like deeply contemporary, not only in the aesthetics she's choosing, like using a lot of like a green screen, using a lot of this kind of like a coded little object that have this kind of half cute, half like technological kind of qualities. And I kind of like also how you have like this really strong connection to how we are used to look at like these short TV forms and how they also like connected to this let's say more traditional but also still dynamic and pretty funny way to address the domestic and the mundane through a character.
I mean, I definitely think that the early cinema reference is quite a useful one, because early cinema often involved a sort of installment-based screenings. So cliffhangers were a big part of early cinema. So I think there are many points of intersection between the cinematic and the televisual, if we think about these sort of temporal forms or temporal structures. And I think in some of the other artists that we've discussed, we mentioned the British artist Nathaniel Mellors. He's worked with prequels and sequels, as well as with television formats and structures. So, I mean, we could see that television is not the only form that is involving this kind of multi-part structure. It's become a big part of cinema generally to have sequels, and there might even be this element of suspense at the end of, say, we were talking before about at the end of the X-Men films, there's often been this thing called like a coda, or they've used other terms. A credit cookie was another term that we came across. So if you stay at the end of the credits and you're really diligent, you'll be rewarded as a fan, because you'll see a couple of minutes of one of the X-Men characters basically pointing you towards what might be the next installment. And this strategy, well, I wondered if we might look at Melanie Matranga's work, because she has this really interesting use of this kind of promise of something to come. And I think when we are looking at serial form and serialization, we have to look at the beginnings and ends of episodes in a way to see how does an artist or a filmmaker or a TV scriptwriter, how do they plan this gap between when one episode ends and the next begins. And if it's television in its broadcast form, there might be a week of waiting. But now that people tend to stream, there's not much waiting. It's often straight into the next episode. So the coda has a place in some contexts, but not necessarily everywhere else. But it's become a form that people play with. So do you want to introduce this work, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Melanie Matranga made this TV, like kind of web series called From A to B through E.
Perfect timing there.
Indeed, as a project in the framework of like the Frieze Art Fair, So, and like she put herself in a situation of filming during the construction of the fair that we see in this shot, for example. She worked with 2 actors, having set with them like some kind of like, it's a couple. They have like some kind of like easily recognizable kind of characters, like girlfriend, boyfriend, with kind of like tension in between themselves. The girl being also like an aspiring artist, and at the same time she's like taking inside of this narrative fragments of what's happening inside of the fair, like interviewing workers and showing how the fair develops, and like using this kind of like tension also that is part of this short time frame when this fair builds up and like is dismantled, to put herself in a pretty complex situation in terms of like production, which gives also the film this like aesthetics that has also some kind of cinematic quality, but then works in this kind of like really energetic kind of phase. Like this is the beginning of like episode 2, and there's this narrative where like the girl is like late in this like meeting, and like at the end of the episode you will have this kind of like as you were saying, this like kind of form of coda where this like weird tension that seemed to have been resolved in the episode like continues with this like relation in between the couple, and gets to this kind of like some kind of a cliffhanger in between like the credits, but which is something which not going to be resolved in the 3rd episode, like where we're starting from like another moment, which is at the end like more guided by this kind of like let's say specificity of the place where she's filming, on this moment when like she's working on with this with the art fair, which is also then a way for with this serialized like structure to address this situation of work as an artist, and to have also this kind of like mise en abîme with these characters being in this situation when she is herself working. Whoops.
Yeah, and she's a very affecting character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's well scripted in the sense that it draws us into the inner world and the dilemma of this character.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great performance, but also, as you were saying, it's in some ways it's a stock character. It's the girl who has a sort of a shitty boyfriend. Basically, he's not great, and he's trying to undermine her in various ways. So immediately you're able to enter into this story world because the characters have a slightly stock quality, but then they're inserted into this situation that's really quite strange. So they're carrying out their relationship dynamics within the fair, and it's actually, when you encounter this work, you're probably going to know a little bit about how it was produced, and the time frame for the making of the work is the installation of the fair. So it actually has this sort of multiple temporalities that are intersecting and overlapping. So all of this work of installing is happening behind the scenes, and she dips out of the more documentary and back into the more sort of melodramatic almost. So that idea of the character, it's developed through the fact that it's a multi-part structure. It does use elements of serialization, but it's quite modest in some ways because there are only 3 episodes. They're quite short, and also in terms of the way the work was designed to be experienced, it's. I mean, in some ways, it works perfectly online. It's the streaming that allows you to actually enter into this world. It would have been quite different, I think, to encounter it within the fair as installation on monitors or projectors. It would have been very different, I think.
Yeah, like actually, what we see in this moment of the episode was like the setup in which you may encounter the artist and watch the episodes one day after the other on like on laptops in this kind of like cafe. But when you were talking also about this like relation to the use of like time and this question of like how like then the constraints are kind of like framing the work. Like I guess we could move on to a project that like uses like has this like working with a different scope with this like the same elements with this which is like Nathaniel Meller's like Our House, in which what's really interesting when we talked about it and when you explained to me like how he's been developing the different episodes and like structuring at some point like it's kind of like prequel moving in time through what he has been constructed, which is a pretty complex cast of character. So maybe we can have a look at I can launch this video and like maybe you can say a little bit about how this
I mean, people might recognize that this actress is Gwendoline Christie, who is, she's in the cast of Game of Thrones. She plays Brienne of Tarth, and she's also in the Hunger Games. So at the time that this series began, she was quite involved. I think she actually gets an assistant producer credit on maybe one of the episodes, and I think hers is one of many really great performances. And her character, I can hear, I mean, her delivery is pretty amazing. So,
They grow into the ground.
yeah, I'll keep talking. I mean, the dynamics are really complex in this. So Our House, at the moment, I think there are maybe 5 episodes, and then there's one of them is a recent one, and it's described really as a prequel. So
yeah, this is this one in which like we can look at this like short excerpt in which like there's a change of
yes. So Gwendoline Christie was replaced in this episode, and that's referred to, and there's a sort of almost sort of joking acknowledgement that something has changed, and she, you know.
She's the one.
So yeah, this is Laura D. Milnes, who is playing the character of Baby Doll, and it's a family drama. It's a melodrama. So there's a family. There are 2 sons. Usually we see them in a crumbling English manor. In this most recent episode, they're actually in Preston bus station, which is a really popular local landmark in Preston, which is near Manchester. And it's a brutalist bus station, which is also a car park. And most of the story revolves around the relationships between these people, but there is also a fascination with time. So time travel in a way, and also evolution and devolution. So I think Nathaniel Meller's work there's a reference to cinema in many of the episodes, but it is actually it has very high production values. The episodes are quite lengthy. They can be maybe 40, 50 minutes. They also have quite a large cast, and in a way they visually come kind of closest to the production values that we would associate with commercial television, because the resources are quite significant. So a lot of these episodes would be made with several institutions involved as commissioners, and we're looking at clips that are on Contemporary Art Daily, because this work is not designed to be viewed online. This work is very much gallery based, and also there are objects similar to Shanna Moulton. There are sculptural elements that are really quite integral to Nathaniel Meller's practice. So when one encounters an episode of Our House, and you might only see one episode in an exhibition at a time, or you might see 2 or 3. You will also encounter objects that have a relationship to things you see on screen. So they might be props, or they might have a visual resemblance to props. And you also have, in a lot of cases, a kind of spilling over from humans to objects that is explored sculpturally as well as narratively. And he's very interested in language, and in this, I guess in the family melodrama in the British tradition, there's often been a focus on class and also on maybe accent as a marker of class. And in this scene, Gwendoline Christie is really tormenting Bobby, the gardener, and she's mocking him for his Irish accent, and she is forcing him to say the word potato over and over again. But Bobby is a recurring character, and the dynamics spill over from the family to their like wider social circle. But I think what maybe makes this work a little bit different from some of the others we've discussed is that while we begin with very familiar components, such as the family, the house that people live in together, these ideas and thematics of class, they're very familiar to kind of a lot of British television viewers, for example. We move quite quickly into very strange territory, and the relationships start to crumble and dissolve, and the boundaries between people and things are quite unstable, and language is quite unstable. So there is a use of the knowledge that many viewers will have of these conventions and norms of television. And that's, I think, very much in keeping with this idea I mentioned at the beginning of using television as a resource. So there's a lot of drawing upon what will already be familiar, but then quite quickly disturbing it or deviating from it and trying to mess it up in some way. So that's, I guess, where the work shifts away from commercial television, even if it might use TV actors and it might involve TV production personnel. So it has this other agenda which becomes apparent quite quickly.
Yeah, to the extent also that like the strength of such a work is at the same time to create this kind of like a universe and like address our attention or our spectatorship in this kind of like narrative structure, but at the same time it remains like really an artist project in terms of being really focused on questions and that are like pretty conceptual. Like this question of language is really addressed in like a really sophisticated and complex way in each episode, and as long as the series is developing, and you also have like a sense of burlesque and nonsense that would be like impossible, I guess, to get on air in any TV show.
I mean, you could say there are points of contact with something like Twin Peaks. There's absurd things that happen that are unexplained, but it definitely is. It is work that is supported by a lot of. There's quite a lot of investment in this from many different institutions, and in a way, it raises some interesting questions about, I suppose, what modes of production might be possible for artists with certain types of support. I mean, one of the things that I think was very interesting in looking at Melanie Gilligan's work is the fact that the most recent work, the Common Sense, that's not available online.
That's right.
Or not in the way that her earlier works were. So there is a sense that if you're not in a subscription model, perhaps you can't just allow these works to be, freely available, that there has to be some kind of, there's maybe a limit on where you can go in this sort of moving towards a TV production model, because you don't have the economy of subscription to support it, and you don't have the scale, maybe.
Yeah, there's definitely this kind of interesting paradox to which like this serialization allows like to develop a certain type of ideas, questions, and also like to develop a kind of like really an audience relation, which is really like exciting and like potentially developing to direction of like this kind of scattered also modes of distribution that are now like everybody knows like TV is now more like something that exists like on like a multiple supports than the old sense of like big channels and networks. And on the other hand, as you say, like these possibilities are still like linked to question of production that some artists are able to like use this serial as a resource to gather money around, and with some others it becomes also more of this kind of like more complex situation with which still like to find like a good balance in between these different channels of distribution.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have more we could say, but
I think
we may run out of time.
I think we may run out of time, and maybe we can find a way for dear production to switch to something else.
Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour. Juliette Foucault, votre chef de bord, vous souhaite la bienvenue aux voyageurs à destination de Paris. Notre train traversera les régions et les âges de la France, depuis les dinosaures jusqu'aux années 1980. Vous pourrez y croiser Roland Barthes à la place numéro 53 et Jules Michelet à la place numéro 55. Christophe Colomb nous rejoindra en gare du Mans. En regardant par la fenêtre, vous pourrez apercevoir Saint-François d'Assise qui discute avec un renard affamé. Pour vous restaurer, vous trouverez nos baristas en voiture 4 et 14. Nous vous souhaitons un agréable voyage.
J'ai faim! J'ai faim!
Pardon de cette technique de juste 30 secondes.
Ce que vous nous annoncez n'est pas d'une gaieté absolue.
Vous savez qu'on a interdit, il y a 3 ans, de pêcher des poissons dans le Rhône parce qu'on a trouvé 8 picogrammes de PCB par gramme d'anguille. D'accord ?
La politique, qu'est-ce qu'elle peut faire contre ça?
Attention, la politique ne peut jamais rien faire.
Europe Économie Qui domine
Alors,
l'autre?
pour les matheux qui nous écoutent, 8 picogrammes, ça s'écrit 8 10 puissance moins 12. Alors, j'ai essayé de trouver combien il y avait de grammes de poissons dans le Rhône. Alors, d'après mes copains ingénieurs des eaux et forêts, puisque c'est aussi ma formation, ils me disent, écoute, il y a à peu près 500 tonnes par kilomètre de Rhône, donc il y a 500 millions de grammes de poissons dans le Rhône.
On ne peut pas le dire comme ça, d'un coup, sans réfléchir. Mais c'est une vérité. Elle n'est pas à dire, cette vérité. Elle est à observer. Elle est à constater. Elle est à digérer. Il faut découvrir petit à petit que ça se passe comme ça.
Dans quelques instants, nous arriverons en gare du Mont. Changement pour la direction des Tours, départ 11h17. Changement pour la flèche par autocar, départ 11h18. Pour Nantes, par train express régional, départ 11h19. Notre rame va être raccordé en gare du Mont. Pendant cette opération, pas tenter d'ouvrir les portes. Pour votre sécurité, lors de la descente du train, prenez garde à l'intervalle entre le marchepied et le quai. Nous arrivons au Mans.
J'ai faim.
Bonjour le renard.
J'ai faim.
Bah, t'as qu'à fumer une cigarette?
Vous n'auriez pas une cigarette? T'aurais pas une cigarette?
C'est 5 francs.
T'aurais pas... 5 francs?
Il y a toujours l'Auvergne et les Auvergnats, la Bretagne et les Bretons, la Lorraine et les Lorrains, l'ensemble Flandre, Artois et les gars de Schnorr, etc., etc. Or, voici qu'est apparue une condition nouvelle et majeure de la vie moderne.
Moi, j'ai faim, mais personne ne veut me donner à manger.
Jamais, depuis que nous existons, il nous est tombé dessus le dos à la fois autant de menaces de nature radicalement différentes, étrangères les unes aux autres, n'ayant rien à voir les unes avec les autres, mais qui se cumulent, s'aggravent les unes les autres.
Souvent on dit « Ah, c'est la crise ». Vous vous dites « Non, non, c'est pas la crise ». Encore au début de cette semaine, c'était pas la crise. Hein. Les 4 millions de bonus de bienvenue au président de Sanofi, c'était pas la crise. C'est quoi ça?
Bon, en biologie, 1000 fois main, c'est pas une fois 1000. C'est-à-dire que si vous recevez 1000 fois de suite un poids de 1 gramme sur le pied, ça vous fait beaucoup moins mal qu'une fois d'un poids d'1 kilo. Donc c'est ça, si vous voulez. Donc on nous fait croire, par exemple, je vais prendre un exemple parce qu'il est rigolo.
Tout ça tourne autour de la même chose. Ça tourne autour de la dignité de ceux d'en bas par rapport à ceux d'au-dessus. Ça tourne autour du fait que pour qu'une société marche bien, il ne faut pas que ceux d'en dessous sont écrasés. Tout ça dit la même chose.
On dirait que ça sent le fromage. J'ai faim.
Later you say yes, a little tired. You say something looking down, begin to say there are one or two things, but he interrupts, saying, well, everyone else said it had some spark. You are not saying anything. You listen, sorry. But he interrupts, saying, well, everyone else said it had some spark. You are not saying anything. You say, listen, don't think I, and he interrupts, let's not pretend. I know what you think of me. I think you know me. I know you. Let's try and work this all out. Let's be good. I only have a few minutes here. You again. You begin the scene, he says. So you enter and you are hysterical. You say, what is the matter with you? Your voice... Repeat, I have sinned, Cynthia. He is directing again, says no, like this. I have sinned, Cynthia. You, I have sinned, Cynthia. He shouts out, no, God damn it. Will you listen for once and not always try so hard to be so stupid? Listen, I have sinned, Cynthia. He is trying to get you mad enough to make the line work, and as always, it is working. You read again, I have sinned, Cynthia. He says once more, but this time try it as though there was some kind of sentient being behind the words. You, I have sinned, Cynthia. He is really angry now. No, why are you so dense? He taps a finger on your forehead. Hello, are you in there? Are you busy? Do you want to come out? This makes you furious. And you push him away and scream, I'm trying. Tell me what you want. I am not a fucking psychic. You repeat the line, I have sinned, Cynthia. He says something, I would like something, feeling, I told you this woman is a shipwreck. You are reading like she is floating off on a fucking lilo. You start to shout it now. I have sinned, Cynthia. He says, that's better. Again, you screaming louder. I have sinned, Cynthia. Him grabbing your shoulders, screaming, now just scream, scream at me.
I know what you're asking. I know exactly what you're asking. Yeah. It's always whenever that's happened for me, that experience is when I'm not there. It's always like when I'm being dissolved, released. Yeah. Dissolved away, free of my contours or something. More to do with non-existence. Yeah, non-existence. Void. Yeah, void, I would say. Or approaching that void, sort of. It almost seems as the closer you get to that void state, the more things become clear, somehow. I'm more interested in annihilation, ego annihilation, non-existence. To me, it's almost like a sort of a fizzing, like a sensation of fizzing, like particles that gradually rush and become more and more intense, and then they join together. It's just like white light, just white, burning, just whoosh. And you see it, you can see how it happens, you see the mechanism of it, but bit by bit you realise you've just sort of stepped out of it, and you're just watching it like a movie, and it just sort of crumbles away. It just sort of falls away, and there's just nothing there. There's just nothing. And then suddenly there's this whoosh, and you're extincted. You cease to exist. And then nothing. That's beyond feeling. Yeah, it's not feeling. It's not feeling. I don't think it's to do with having a nervous system. It's not biological. You don't need a nervous system. You're decaying, you know that your senses aren't working, and I can't read so well, and you have to accept things like that. Because none of it is of any consequence. We're pushed all the time to look, hear, respond. We don't have to do any of it. Nothing. You don't have to do anything. You really don't. You don't have to do fuck all if you don't want to do it. And so as your senses change, like not being able to read something, well, I didn't need to read it then. If I needed to read it, I would have had my glasses on me. But I didn't. So I didn't read it, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I was thinking about that actually. If I went deaf, if I went deaf, what would that be like? There's nothing I'd be able to do about it. The senses do cut out one by one. And I don't know. Maybe I don't need music. I probably don't. I don't think I need it. Or maybe I just enjoy the feeling of the string under my fingers when I bow the string. I don't know. The fear of it is so intense that you have to run away. I don't know. These are subtle, disruptive things are really good because we just tend to be more and more habitual and patterned in the way we do things all the time. That's the way we are. And the thing is really to get out of all kind of patterns as much as possible. To try and break patterns. I think we will, if we don't completely...
You're a suicidal optimist, basically.
Yes, I'm a suicidal optimist. I am a suicidal optimist. I couldn't be anything else, could I?
Simple Music Television.
abusing your pain, abusing your love, and nothing cannot change. I just don't want to be one of them. Abusing your pain, abusing your love, I just don't want to be one of them. But I do, anyway, and I can't change. Abusing you again. Nothing cannot change. Abusing your pain, abusing your love, and I just can't change. Abusing your pain, abusing your love, I just don't want to be one of them. But I don't, no I don't, no I cannot change. Abusing you again and again. Abusing your pain, abusing your love, I just cannot change. Abusing your pain, abusing your love, I just don't want to be one of them. Abusing you again and again. Abusing you again and again. Abusing you again and again.
Simple Music Television. Simple Music Television.
Allô? Ouais, ça va. Écoute, là, je suis à la plage. Ah merde, j'ai complètement oublié de prendre le contact. Ouais.
On the beach, on the beach, on the beach, on the beach. On the beach. On the beach, on the beach. On the beach, on the beach. Simple Music Television. 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 Simple Music Television.